Today I'm going to be speaking about misandry. Now that's not a word that we hear very often, but it's the opposite of misogyny. Okay, so misogyny is when we hold unconscious prejudice towards the feminine. And this is it stems from a deep fear of the feminine, which is a fear of the unknown, a fear of chaos, okay, a fear of death, of the ego disappearing. But misandry is the fear of, total control, okay. So the extreme masculine principle. Now I met up with a brother last night who I hadn't seen in years, and he shared with me that he hadn't been with anybody in 5 years, which, given that we are in midlife, that's not too surprising, because as we age, we become more discerning in our choices. We're not as needy as we are for external validation that we're lovable and beautiful as we are in our youth. We're not chasing, the rush of endorphins of sex. Instead, we're aware of the impact of our choices more. So we take our time usually to get to know somebody and discern whether or not we're compatible, whether or not the values are aligned and things. But the reason that this brother gave me for him not being with anybody for the last 5 years was a surprise. And that is what, upon waking, was the impetus to speak to today for this episode, episode 13. And what he said is that he didn't feel he was financially prepared. In other words, he didn't feel he had enough money to instigate a relationship with a woman. And this, wow, this speaks to the heart of misandry, which is a distortion that we have around the role of the masculine in our society. It's how we've been programmed, how we've been conditioned. How? Well, during patriarchy, men were told repeatedly that how much they should spend on a wedding ring should be a month's salary. Okay, so something they really had to put some thought into and commitment to save up. Now, whilst, we can say, yeah, that's, good to develop a sense of responsibility and really put some thought into it, the gravitas of the decision, and to put oneself out, okay, in order to show through one's effort the measure of one's feelings. So there are some noble ideas behind that. However, in a patriarchy, men are valued primarily for their net worth, for their ability to provide. Okay, it used to be their ability to protect. Okay, when we were nomadic, living from cave to cave in the Paleolithic times, was how much a man could protect you from a saber-toothed tiger, right? But these days, protection or security is construed in terms of financial security, financial wealth, how much a man can protect you from the wolf at the door, i.e. the bailiffs turning up and repossessing your furniture. So what that does is it puts a pressure on men from the time that they leave school, that they must put aside what it is they most want to do, the dream that lives in their heart, and do what is sensible, do what is expected, okay, i.e. the path that is going to net them the most fiscal value, the most monetary reward. And this is a betrayal of the self, a betrayal of the heart. And when one betrays the heart, they then betray the heart of others. Okay, how we treat others is a reflection of how we treat ourselves. If a man is betraying his heart, he is not happy. No amount of distraction, of compensation will truly compensate for his devil's bargain, for his betrayal of his own soul. And so the weight of a woman carrying a man who is not self-fulfilling, who is not taking responsibility for his own heart's happiness, is a heavy toll. To live with a man who is depressed, who resents the fact that he has become a wage slave or a walking wallet. Now, this fear of not being enough, if you don't have enough money in the bank to impress a woman, this is a projection. Yes, there are some young or immature women who believe diamonds are a girl's best friend, and this was the conditioning that patriarchy put on women. Don't choose a man for love, choose a man for security. And this is, the idea of the sugar daddy or the trophy bride, somebody who is shoring up her future. And we see this more in the higher echelons of society, the gentry class, where marriage really was a brokering between dynastic families and ensuring the bloodline stayed within those of the 1% that had amassed the most wealth through often the mistreatment of others. So women were chattel, women were property. This is where the tradition of a surname comes in. Which sir owns you, the enslavement of the feminine. And that's why, I don't have a surname. I have one name on my passport, my driver's license, my Medicare. Because when I discovered this, I went, hang on a minute. I do not want to be the property of anybody, I am sovereign. I come to any union as a sovereign being. So, and perhaps this is why for some that are together for a long time and then they get married, the wheels fall off the relationship and things fall apart. The thought form, the word marriage carries with it wedlock, being bonded to each other with these traditional marital values of patriarchy, where the man must provide and the woman must nurture. And what this creates is a polarization, a codependency of, expecting one soul who is both feminine and masculine to polarize into the role of the nurturer and the other soul to polarize into the role of the provider. What we're seeing ever since the sexual revolution of the 60s is people wanting more equity, or fighting for equality, but in fact what we really want is equity, which is where both get to do what makes them happy, but it's a complementary arrangement. This is how the sexes are meant to flow in a harmonic way together, that we do what brings us joy, and in doing that we naturally attract our divine complement, rather than imposing, just because I'm a woman I should be doing this, or just because I'm a man I should be doing this. That programming is old paradigm and something our consciousness is rapidly outgrowing. So, I was watching a film the other week, and the character, a male character, said in it, if you find a woman who you think is too good for you, marry her. Now again, there's noble thinking behind this. It means you will strive to be the best version of yourself, because it's often women that provide the inspiration for a man to be a better man, to step up into his fullest potential so as not to lose her, But it is this fear of not being enough, this fear of rejection, that you will be judged as lesser, that keeps men from initiating. And when a man lacks the worth, the self-worth to initiate with a woman. He is the disempowered masculine. He is, fantasizing about a woman from afar. He is the knight. He is not the king. Okay? He is somebody who is lost in a fantasy world. He lacks the confidence to make his dreams a reality by taking right action, because the masculine, when empowered, is the active polarity. Just like the circle with the arrow sticking out of it, which is the glyph of Mars, the ruling planet of the masculine. When the masculine part of all of us is empowered, it takes action. It is decisive. It doesn't overthink. It doesn't, stop because it's afraid that it isn't enough, that it's afraid it will be rejected. So this fear of rejection that is often projected onto women is not necessarily the reality. Yeah, at the end of the day, those that choose to incarnate into a female form are here primarily to embody love. Yeah. So what moves us are acts of love, acts of beauty that express the heart. Okay. So we are not necessarily measuring how much you have in the bank. Yeah, what we're measuring is your courage. Your courage to take action, to speak your heart, to speak your truth, to act in accordance with your deepest heart's desires and values. That's what moves the heart of a woman. Not your net worth, your intrinsic worth. Courage, confidence is attractive. We are attracted to that light in the masculine, yeah, which is why women can end up with alpha men who sometimes dominate and abuse them, because what we're initially attracted to is their confidence to initiate, to act. Yeah. Whereas a man who is in second stage manhood, he is often feminine dominant, yeah, not wanting to make a decision so he doesn't get in trouble. And if you're wanting to know more about the 3 stages of manhood and womanhood and how they impact our relating, you can check out my conscious relating program on my website, themoonwoman.com. So this idea that, we are groomed as women to be attracted to Prince Charming, so a man of noble birth, from an elite family, i.e. it is suggesting wealth. All right, we don't see fairy tales where she marries a pauper. So, and we're told to marry well, okay, if we're further up the hierarchical social status system in a patriarchy. But our intrinsic worth can't be measured. Money is a measurement, it's an artificial measurement of value, of worth. But our true value is not what we do, it's who we are. That can't be measured. Who we are is eternal, immortal. We are souls, we are light, we are consciousness. That can't be measured by a man-made construct. So when we measure ourselves financially, we are diminishing our light. We are diminishing our perspective of ourselves, our self-perception. And when we diminish ourselves, we project that others are seeing us as small and inadequate. So it is not just men that suffer from this misandry, this internalized sense of prejudice towards the masculine, which implies you are worthless if you have nothing to show for yourself, if you've not made something of yourself. Yeah, we see this a lot in Asian cultures where, you are the prodigal son if you're an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer. Yeah, if you've made your parents proud, regardless of what you actually want to do. Yeah. So women can also suffer from this internalized misandry, particularly women in the West who overwork in order to prove their worth, to prove they're as good as any man, to prove something to their father, perhaps consciously or unconsciously. This is shadow Athena. Athena is the archetype of the feminine that governs the solar plexus, which is the lower mental body. And if you want to journey and empower her, I invite you to read my book, The Inner Goddess Makeover, which is a tantric workbook for women. And there's also an album of guided meditations to meet the 7 feminine archetypes that, through empowering them, activate and heal our feminine psyche. So when we are suffering from internal misandry, the fear that we're not good enough, unless we do something out there to prove our worth, this creates internal pressure to perform, whether that's to perform in the bedroom or to perform in the boardroom or to perform in the market or perform on a stage. Performance is egoic. The soul doesn't need to perform. The soul is self-validating. The soul knows its intrinsic value is beyond measure, beyond proof. And that frees us up when we know that, to be able to stand on a stage or make love or step into a boardroom or take big risks, knowing that who we are will survive anything. We'll survive rejection. We will survive public humiliation. We will survive failure because we are so much greater than our experiences. We are eternal. So, true wealth, we have been fed a distortion. We have been told that true wealth is money. But true wealth is time. Time to do what it is you love, to spend quality time with the people that make your heart sing. True wealth is freedom, sovereignty, to make your own choices, to be the master of your own ship, your own destiny, to follow the will of your heart, not be enslaved to the will of others through manipulation, through guilt, through a sense of indebtedness. True wealth is health and well-being. There's no point in having all this money if you don't feel vital, if you don't feel at home in your body, if you don't feel pain-free. So we need to revise, reframe what is wealth, what is true wealth. True wealth stems from self-worth, because when we value ourselves, when we value our time, when we value our energy, when we value what we've learned from our experiences, i.e. our embodied wisdom, we make choices that are self-honouring. We don't compromise our heart, we don't betray ourselves, we don't spend time with people that drain us. We set boundaries when we are in situations that are not honouring, that devalue us, when we are around people that aren't capable, don't have the capacity to honour us because of their own lack of self-worth or their own fear. So this distortion around true wealth sees the perpetuation of the working poor. Those who are working hard to try and achieve the dream, whether that's a mortgage, the same Latin root of mortuary, paying off a house that is killing you. Because at the end of the day, when we are miserly with ourselves, we are miserable. It's the same root, the same word. We must be generous of heart with ourselves. We must make choices in accordance with the will of our heart in order to expand the possibilities for a greater life. This is the opposite of security. Security is a jail, it's a constraint. Having 2 weeks a year your allotted time to do what it is your heart wants to do will kill you. Yeah? People that work their whole lives in a job they don't enjoy age faster. You can use all the beauty creams you like, but if you're not following your heart, it will drain your life force. And we wonder why people have heart attacks. It's the biggest killer in the West. Because between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m, this is heart chi time. And if you are in a job that your heart isn't invested in, it is killing you. So we must dare to follow our heart. We must dare to speak our heart, to act upon our heart. Because living in fear does not serve us. It does not serve humanity, because it doesn't serve the one heart of the world's soul. When we follow the will of the heart, we serve the collective. So men are not the victors of patriarchy. We are being programmed to blame them, to divert our attention away from our common enemy, which is the system, the state, the empire that programs us to be small, to see each other with distrust and disdain. If this whets your appetite for more, I invite you to read my latest book, The Grail, which is available on audiobook, ebook and paperback. On Amazon, you can ask your bookstore, but it's also available via my website, themoonwoman.com. Thanks for watching, and if you want to join me live, I invite you to gather, do whatever it takes to gather in the heart, together in the one heart, the one soul, during the Lion's Gate, the time of courage, which is the 8th of the 8th, the 8th day of the 8th month, with me in Edinburgh, a ley line convergence for the Stargate portal of the 888 Lion's Gate. And if you want to know more about that, check out my new one-woman rock opera premiering live at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, August 2nd to 10. You can find out details on my website, themoonwoman.com. Thanks for tuning in. You have my blessing to share this far